Jiwoo wiped down another table at the Celestial Gardens restaurant, her feet aching from the long shift. The restaurant sat on the observation deck of Nexus Station, giving diners a beautiful view of the stars and the ships coming and going. She had been working here for 2 years now, saving every credit she earned to buy a ticket back to Earth. The evening crowd was quieter than usual. Jiwoo carried a tray of empty glasses back to the kitchen when she heard a loud crash from outside. The floor shook beneath her feet. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Through the large windows, she could see smoke rising from the market district below. Her manager rushed to the window. "Stay inside, everyone! There's been an accident in the loading bay!" But Jiwoo was already moving toward the door. She had taken emergency training when she first arrived at the station. Old habits kicked in. She grabbed the medical kit from behind the counter and ran toward the emergency stairs. The market district was chaos. A massive cargo hauler had lost control and crashed into one of the support beams. Metal debris was scattered everywhere. Aliens of different species were running in all directions, trying to escape. Station security was just arriving, shouting orders that nobody could hear over the alarms. Jiwoo pushed through the crowd, looking for anyone who needed help. That was when she heard it. A small, high-pitched crying sound. It reminded her of a bird, but louder and more desperate. She followed the sound to a pile of twisted metal near the crash site. There, trapped under a fallen beam, was a small creature. It had golden scales that shimmered even in the dim emergency lighting. 2 small wings were folded against its body, but one wing was bent at a wrong angle. The creature was no bigger than a large dog, with tears streaming down its reptilian face. Jiwoo had never seen anything like it before, but she knew one thing for certain. This was a child, and it was hurt. She dropped to her knees beside the creature. "Hey there, it's okay, I'm going to help you." The small dragon looked at her with bright green eyes full of fear and pain. It made another crying sound. "I know it hurts," Jiwoo said softly. She examined the beam pinning the creature. It was too heavy for her to lift alone. She looked around, but the other aliens kept their distance. Some looked scared, others just stared. "Someone help me lift this," Jiwoo shouted. Nobody moved. Jiwoo gritted her teeth. Fine. She would do what she could. She opened the medical kit and pulled out the supplies. The dragon's injured wing was clearly broken. Moving the creature would be dangerous, but leaving it here was worse. The smoke was getting thicker. She spoke in a gentle voice as she worked. "My name is Jiwoo. I'm not going to hurt you. I need to wrap your wing, okay? It's going to hurt a little, but then we can get you out of here." The dragon seemed to understand her tone, if not her words. It held still as Jiwoo carefully tore strips from her uniform apron. She created a makeshift splint using pieces of smooth metal from the debris and the cloth strips. Her hands moved with practiced skill, securing the wing against the dragon's body so it would not move. The dragon whimpered, but did not pull away. "You're being so brave," Jiwoo said. "Now comes the hard part." She braced her feet against the ground and pushed at the beam with all her strength. It shifted slightly. The dragon cried out. Jiwoo pushed harder, feeling her muscles burn. The beam lifted just enough. She grabbed the dragon under its front legs and pulled it free. The creature was heavier than it looked, but Jiwoo managed to lift it. She held it against her chest like she would hold a child. The dragon's scales were warm, almost hot. It tucked its head under her chin, trembling. "I've got you," Jiwoo whispered. "You're safe now." She turned to carry the dragon toward the medical bay when she found her path blocked. A wall of armored soldiers stood before her. Behind them was the largest creature Jiwoo had ever seen. He stood at least 8 feet tall. With scales that looked like liquid silver, massive wings were folded against his back. His eyes glowed with an inner fire as he stared at Jiwoo. The air around him seemed to shimmer with heat and power. Jiwoo's heart hammered in her chest, but she stood her ground. The dragon in her arms was still crying softly. The giant silver dragon stepped forward. His voice was deep and filled with barely controlled emotion. "That is my daughter." Jiwoo looked down at the small golden dragon, then back up at the Emperor. She swallowed hard. "Then we need to get her to a doctor right now. Her wing is broken." Something flickered across the Emperor's face. Surprise, maybe. He gestured, and his guards parted. "Follow me." As Jiwoo walked through the wall of soldiers, cradling the injured hatchling, she had no idea that this moment would change everything. She was just a waitress doing what felt right. But Emperor Thalrax watched this small human carry his most precious treasure with gentle hands and careful steps. And he would not forget. The medical bay was bright and sterile. Jiwoo sat in a chair beside the examination table where the small dragon lay. She had refused to leave, even when the Imperial Guards tried to escort her out. The dragon had gripped her sleeve with its small claws and would not let go. 3 Drakmaran doctors worked on the injured wing. They spoke in their own language, a series of clicks and rumbling sounds that Jiwoo could not understand. But their movements were careful and professional. That gave her some comfort. Emperor Thalrax stood against the wall, watching everything. He had not moved in over an hour. His eyes followed every motion the doctors made. Sometimes his gaze would shift to Jiwoo, studying her with an intensity that made her nervous. Finally, the lead doctor turned to the Emperor and spoke in the common trade language. "The wing will heal completely. The human splint prevented further damage. Without it, the hatchling might have lost use of the wing forever." Thalrax's expression did not change, but something in his posture relaxed slightly. "You are certain?" "Yes, Imperial Majesty. The human has medical training. Basic, but effective." Jiwoo felt her cheeks flush. "Just first aid classes. Nothing special." The doctor looked at her with what might have been respect. "You did well, human." The small dragon stirred on the table. Her eyes opened slowly. When she saw Jiwoo, she made a happy chirping sound and reached out with one small paw. "Warm friend," the dragon said in a tiny voice. Jiwoo blinked in surprise. "You can talk?" "Hana is 50 years old," Thalrax said. "Young for our kind, but past the age of speech." 50? Jiwoo stared at the dragon. She looked like a baby. "Our people live for thousands of years," Thalrax explained. "Hana is a hatchling, a child, as you would say." Hana reached for Jiwoo again. "Warm friend stay?" Jiwoo looked at the Emperor, unsure. He gave a small nod. She moved closer to the table and took Hana's paw gently. The scales were smooth and warm under her fingers. "I'll stay until you feel better," Jiwoo promised. Hana's eyes closed again, but she held on to Jiwoo's hand. The Emperor gestured for Jiwoo to follow him to the other side of the room. She carefully freed her hand from Hana's grip and walked over. Up close, Thalrax was even more impressive. The scales on his arms bore old scars. His eyes held the weight of centuries. "You saved my daughter's life," Thalrax said quietly. "Do you understand what that means in my culture?" "I just did what anyone should do," Jiwoo said. "But you are not Drakmaran. You had no duty to her. You risked your life in a dangerous situation. You provided medical aid, and my daughter has called you warm friend." Thalrax paused. Hatchlings can sense the intention in a person's heart. They do not give that title lightly. Jiwoo did not know what to say. She had acted on instinct. Seeing a child hurt had triggered every protective instinct she had. "In my culture," Thalrax continued, "when someone saves the life of a family member, a life debt is created. It is sacred, unbreakable. I owe you a debt, Jiwoo of Earth." "You don't owe me anything," Jiwoo said quickly. "Really, I was just helping." This seemed to surprise him again. You want no reward? No payment? I'm just glad she's okay. Thalrax studied her for a long moment. Humans are strange. In my experience, most species would demand wealth or position or favors. I'm not most species, Jiwoo said with a small smile. Something that might have been amusement crossed the Emperor's face. No, you are not. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he spoke again. I have a proposal. Hana will need time to heal, months perhaps. She has bonded with you. I would like you to serve as her companion during this time, a cultural liaison, if you will. You would be paid well. You would live aboard my ship and help Hana recover. Jiwoo's eyes widened. Live on your ship? But I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about being a liaison. You know about compassion. You know about helping others without expecting reward. That is enough. Thalrax's expression grew serious. And truthfully, I would like to learn more about humans. Your species is new to this part of space. We know little about you. This would benefit both our peoples. Jiwoo thought about her small room at the station. Her job that paid barely enough to save anything. Then she thought about Hana's small face and her happy chirping when she saw Jiwoo. How long would this job last? As long as Hana needs you. 6 months, perhaps more. 6 months of good pay. That would be enough for her ticket home and more. And she could help Hana heal. It seemed too good to be true. Okay, Jiwoo said. I'll do it. Thalrax nodded. Good. We leave for my home world tomorrow. I will have my staff prepare quarters for you. The next morning, Jiwoo stood in the docking bay with a small bag of her belongings. The Emperor's ship was massive, gleaming silver in the station lights. It looked like a work of art and a weapon at the same time. Ambassador Kyung-soo, Earth's representative on the station, had rushed to see her off. He looked stressed. Are you sure about this? He asked. The Drakmaran Imperium is one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. If something goes wrong... I'll be fine, Jiwoo said, more confident than she felt. I'm just helping a child recover. You're the first human to work directly for the Dragon Emperor, Kyung-soo said. Do you understand the implications? Jiwoo shrugged. Not really, but Hana needs help, and I can provide it. That's all that matters. As she walked up the boarding ramp, Jiwoo looked back at Nexus Station one last time. She had no idea that she was walking into a new life, one that would change not just her future, but the future of all humanity. Jiwoo's quarters on the Eternal Flame were bigger than her entire apartment back on Nexus Station. The room had tall ceilings, walls decorated with intricate carvings, and a bed that could fit 4 people. Everything was made for beings much larger than humans. She felt like a child in an adult's world. A servant had brought her formal robes that morning. They were beautiful but uncomfortable. The fabric was too stiff, and the collar was too high. Jiwoo missed her simple work clothes. She found Hana in the recovery room. The young dragon was supposed to be resting, but she bounced excitedly when Jiwoo entered. Warm friend, you came. Of course I came, Jiwoo said, sitting beside her. How's your wing feeling? Hana extended her injured wing carefully. The doctors had wrapped it in a special bandage that glowed faintly. It hurts less today. The doctors say I must exercise it gently. Then let's do some exercises, Jiwoo said. But first, can you teach me some words in your language? I want to speak with you properly. Hana's eyes lit up. For the next hour, they practiced basic phrases. Jiwoo learned that the clicking sounds were important for conveying emotion. Hana giggled every time Jiwoo got the pronunciation wrong. You sound like a baby hatchling, Hana said, but she said it kindly. I probably do, Jiwoo laughed. Your language is hard. Common speech is hard too, Hana admitted. Too many flat sounds. They were playing a simple clapping game Jiwoo had taught her when Emperor Thalrax entered. He stopped in the doorway watching them. His expression was unreadable. "Father," Hana called, "come play with us." "I have duties," Thalrax said, but he did not leave. "Just for a minute," Hana pleaded. "Ji-Woo is teaching me human games. They are fun." Ji-Woo felt awkward under the Emperor's gaze. "You don't have to, Your Majesty. I know you're busy." "Show me this game," Thalrax said, moving closer. Ji-Woo explained the simple rhythm game. Thalrax sat down across from them, looking uncomfortable but trying. His large hands were not made for the quick clapping patterns, and he kept missing the rhythm. Hana laughed with delight, and eventually, even Thalrax's serious expression softened. "This is foolish," he said, but there was no anger in his voice. "It's fun," Ji-Woo corrected. "There's a difference." Over the following weeks, this became their routine. Ji-Woo spent mornings with Hana, helping her exercise her wing and teaching her about human culture. Afternoons were for rest, and in the evenings, Thalrax began joining them. At first, he just watched, but slowly he started asking questions about Earth, about human history, about why humans created art and music when they were so busy just surviving. "We make art because we need beauty," Ji-Woo explained one evening. "Life is hard. Art reminds us why life is worth living." "Your species has no natural weapons," Thalrax said. "No claws, no armor, no venom. How did you survive?" "We had each other," Ji-Woo said simply. "Humans are weak alone. Together, we're strong." This seemed to fascinate him. The Drachmaran valued individual strength above all else. The idea of collective power was foreign to them. One day, a formal dinner was held for visiting dignitaries. Ji-Woo was required to attend as Hana's companion. The dining hall was enormous, with a table that could seat 50. The food was exotic and strange. Ji-Woo tried everything offered to her, even when it looked disturbing. But when a servant placed a bowl of live insects in front of her, she hesitated. "These are a delicacy," the dignitary next to her said. "A great honor." Ji-Woo watched the insects crawl around the bowl. Her stomach turned. She knew refusing could be an insult, but she also knew she could not eat living creatures. "I'm sorry," she said politely. "In my culture, we prepare our food differently. I cannot eat this." The hall went silent. The dignitary's face darkened. "You refuse a gift from the Emperor's table?" "I mean no disrespect," Ji-Woo said, keeping her voice steady. "But I must decline." Everyone looked at Thalrax. The Emperor could order her punished for this insult. The air felt heavy with tension. Then Thalrax did something unexpected. He laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was genuine amusement. The sound filled the hall. "Humans have strong preferences," Thalrax said. "I respect that. Remove the dish." The tension broke. Other guests began talking again. The dignitary looked confused but nodded. After dinner, Thalrax approached Ji-Woo. "That took courage." "I thought you might be angry," Ji-Woo admitted. "I have learned something about your people," Thalrax said. "You will bend when necessary, but you will not break. You have a core of iron, even if your body is soft." A few days later, Ji-Woo watched the Imperial Guards training in the practice yard. Their movements were powerful and precise. She stood at the edge, fascinated. One of the guards noticed her. "Want to try, human?" The others laughed. It was not meant kindly. "Yes," Ji-Woo said, stepping forward. The laughter stopped. The guard looked surprised. "You would challenge me?" "I would like to learn," Ji-Woo corrected. "Will you teach me?" The guard considered this. Then he gestured for her to enter the ring. "I will go easy on you, soft skin." He did not go easy. Within seconds, Ji-Woo was on her back. But she got up. He knocked her down again. She got up again. "You cannot win," the guard said. "I know," Ji-Woo said, breathing hard. But I can learn. She had taken martial arts classes on Earth. She showed them a basic taekwondo form. The guards watched with growing interest. Her technique was nothing compared to their strength, but it was clear she had training and discipline. Your movements are precise, one guard admitted. Weak, but precise. Humans have to be precise, Ji-Woo said. We can't rely on strength alone. Thalrax had been watching from a balcony above. That evening he spoke with Ji-Woo again. You earned their respect today, he said. I got knocked down a dozen times, Ji-Woo said, rubbing a bruised shoulder. Yes, but you got up 12 times. That matters more than winning. That night, Ji-Woo told Hana a story from Earth. It was an old Korean tale about a woodcutter who saved a crane. The crane returned the favor by becoming a beautiful woman who wove magical cloth. But when the woodcutter broke his promise and looked at her while she worked, she had to leave. Why did she leave? Hana asked sadly. Because trust was broken, Ji-Woo said. The story teaches us to keep our promises and respect others' boundaries. Do all human stories teach lessons? Hana asked. Most of them, Ji-Woo said. We learn by sharing stories. Thalrax, listening from the doorway, thought about this. The Drachmaran told stories of conquest and glory. Humans told stories about kindness and trust. Perhaps that was the real difference between their species. Not strength, but values. He was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or military might. It was their ability to care about others, even when it cost them something, and that made them far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. 6 months had passed since Ji-Woo first stepped aboard the Eternal Flame. Hana's wing had healed completely. The young dragon could fly again, soaring through the ship's practice halls with joy, but she still wanted Ji-Woo close. They had become inseparable. Thalrax spent more time with them now. He asked Ji-Woo's opinion on matters of state. He shared meals with them. Sometimes, late at night, he and Ji-Woo would talk about their worlds while Hana slept nearby. I am proposing an alliance with Earth, Thalrax told her one evening. A formal partnership between our peoples. Ji-Woo's eyes widened. That's a big decision. Are you sure? I have seen your character, Thalrax said. If one human can show such courage and kindness, I want to know what humanity as a whole can achieve. We would be stronger together. My people would be honored, Ji-Woo said quietly. The Drachmaran homeworld was beautiful in a harsh way. Mountains of black stone reached toward a red sky. Cities were carved into cliff faces, gleaming with metal and fire. When the Eternal Flame landed, thousands of Drachmaran came to see their emperor return. Earth's first diplomatic ship arrived 3 days later. It was small compared to the Drachmaran vessels, but it carried important people, ambassadors, scientists, and military advisors. Earth was taking this alliance seriously. Ji-Woo stood at the landing platform, her heart racing. She had not seen another human in months. When the ship's door opened, she scanned the faces eagerly. Then she saw her, Subin, her younger sister, stepping off the ship in a formal diplomatic uniform. Subin! Ji-Woo ran forward. Her sister saw her and broke protocol, running to meet her. They hugged tightly, both crying. I can't believe you're here, Ji-Woo said. When did you join the diplomatic corps? When I heard my sister was living with the Dragon Emperor, Subin laughed through tears. I volunteered immediately. Are you okay? Have they treated you well? Better than well, Ji-Woo said. Come on, I'll introduce you to Hana. The welcoming ceremony was held in the Grand Hall. It was a massive space with columns carved to look like dragons in flight. Hundreds of Drachmaran nobles attended. The Earth delegation stood at one end, small and nervous. Thalrax sat on his throne at the other end, radiating power. Ji-Woo stood with Hana near the throne. She wore formal robes now, marked with the symbol of the imperial house. It still felt strange. The ceremony began with speeches. Ambassador Kyung-soo spoke about friendship between species. Thalrax replied with words about mutual respect and strength in unity. Everything was going perfectly. Then the explosions started. The first blast destroyed the main entrance. Stone and dust filled the air. People screamed. The second blast hit near the Earth delegation. Subin was thrown to the ground. "Traitors to the Imperium!" a voice roared. "The Emperor has grown weak. He bows to prey species." Through the smoke, armored Drakmaran soldiers marched in. They wore red markings, rebels, led by a massive dragon with black scales covered in scars. This was Warlord Krath, a name Jiwoo had heard whispered in the halls. He believed Thalrax had gone soft. "Protect the hatchling!" one of the Imperial guards shouted. Chaos erupted. Guards fought rebels. Nobles ran for exits. The Earth delegation tried to form a defensive position, pulling weapons they had hidden in their uniforms. Jiwoo grabbed Hana and ran toward the side exit, but rebels cut off their path. One raised a plasma weapon, aiming at Hana. Jiwoo did not think. She threw herself in front of Hana as the weapon fired. The pain was like being struck by lightning and burned by fire at the same time. Jiwoo felt herself falling. She heard Hana screaming her name. Then Subin was there, returning fire with her own weapon, forcing the rebel back. "Jiwoo, stay awake!" Subin yelled. But the world was getting dark. Jiwoo could see Thalrax across the hall. He had transformed into something terrifying. His body grew larger, wings spreading wide. Fire poured from his mouth. The temperature in the hall rose so high that metal began to glow. The Emperor had not shown his true form in over a century. Now he unleashed it. Krath met him in the center of the hall. The two titans clashed with the force of a meteor strike. The floor cracked beneath them. But Thalrax was fury incarnate. He fought with a rage nobody had seen before. "You dare attack my daughter?" Thalrax's voice shook the walls. "You dare harm those under my protection?" Krath tried to fight back, but he was no match for the Emperor's wrath. Within minutes, the rebel leader was defeated, pinned to the ground by Thalrax's claws. "Mercy!" Krath gasped. "You showed none," Thalrax said coldly. The other rebels were surrendering or fleeing. The battle was over. But when Thalrax turned and saw Jiwoo on the ground, covered in blood, everything else stopped mattering. He crossed the hall in 3 massive strides, shrinking back to his smaller form. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Jiwoo," he said, and his voice broke. Hana was crying, holding Jiwoo's hand. "Wake up, warm friend. Please wake up." Subin had applied emergency bandages, but the wound was severe. "She needs a hospital now." Thalrax did not call for medics. He gathered Jiwoo into his arms himself, cradling her like she had once cradled Hana. His scales were still hot from battle, but he held her gently. "You will not die," he said, though she could not hear him. "I will not allow it." He carried her through the damaged halls to the medical center. Hana flew beside him, still crying. Subin ran behind them with the other humans. In the medical center, the best doctors worked on Jiwoo for hours. Thalrax stood outside the room like a silver statue. He did not move, did not speak. Guards brought him updates on the captured rebels. He ignored them. Advisors asked for orders. He gave them without looking away from the medical room door. Hana sat at his feet, exhausted from crying. "Will Jiwoo be okay, father?" "She must be," Thalrax said quietly. "She must be." Inside the medical room, Jiwoo's heart stopped twice. Each time, the doctors brought her back. The plasma burn had damaged her lung and several organs. For a human, it should have been fatal. But Jiwoo was stubborn. She had gotten up 12 times in the practice yard. She would get up again now. As dawn broke over the Drakmaran homeworld, the head doctor finally emerged. Thalrax stood immediately. "She lives," the doctor said, "but she is not conscious. It may be days before she wakes, if she wakes." "When she wakes," Thalrax corrected, "not if." He entered the room. Jiwoo lay on a bed meant for Drachmaran. She looked so small, wrapped in bandages, connected to machines. Hana climbed onto the bed carefully, curling up beside her. Thalrax stood watch. He had stood watch over his people for 1,000 years. But he had never felt fear like this before. Not when facing armies, not when making decisions that affected billions. This small human had become family, and he had failed to protect her. 5 days passed. Jiwoo remained unconscious, her body fighting to heal. Thalrax rarely left the medical room. He sat in a chair pulled close to her bed, watching the machines that monitored her life signs. When he had to attend to urgent matters of state, he did so from the medical center, receiving reports and giving orders without taking his eyes off Jiwoo for long. Hana refused to leave entirely. The young dragon slept on Jiwoo's bed, holding her hand. She sang songs that Jiwoo had taught her, human songs in a language Hana barely understood, but she sang them anyway. Her small voice filled the quiet room. "Row, row, row your boat," Hana sang softly, "gently down the stream." The doctors tried to make her eat, but Hana would only take a few bites before returning to Jiwoo's side. "She is wasting away," one doctor told Thalrax. "The hatchling has stopped eating properly." Thalrax looked at his daughter. She had lost weight. Her scales had dulled. She looked sick. "Jiwoo saved her twice," Thalrax said quietly. "First her body, now her spirit. Without Jiwoo, Hana will fade." Subin visited every day. She sat on Jiwoo's other side, talking to her sister even though there was no response. She told Jiwoo about the peace negotiations happening outside, about how the attack had actually strengthened the alliance between Earth and the Imperium, about how their parents back on Earth were so proud when they heard what Jiwoo had done. "You're a hero," Subin whispered. "Did you know that? Both our peoples are calling you a hero, so you need to wake up and see it." On the 6th day, Jiwoo's fingers twitched. Hana felt it first. "Father, she moved!" Thalrax was at the bedside instantly. "Jiwoo?" Her eyes opened slowly. The room was too bright. Everything hurt, but she could see Hana's face above her, and the relief in those green eyes made Jiwoo smile despite the pain. "Hey there," Jiwoo whispered. Her voice was rough. "Why the long face?" Hana burst into tears, pressing her snout against Jiwoo's shoulder carefully. "You were asleep so long, I thought you were gone." "Takes more than that to get rid of me," Jiwoo said. She tried to sit up and gasped at the pain. "Do not move," Thalrax said, gently pushing her back down. "You nearly died. You need rest." Jiwoo looked up at him. The Emperor's face was lined with exhaustion. His eyes were bloodshot. "You look terrible," she said. Something that might have been a laugh escaped him. "I could say the same of you. How long was I out?" 6 days, Subin said, appearing at her side. She was crying too. 6 very long days. The doctors rushed in to examine Jiwoo. They declared it a miracle that she had survived at all. The next 2 weeks were painful. Physical therapy to regain her strength, medicine that tasted awful, but Hana stayed by her side through all of it, encouraging her the way Jiwoo had once encouraged the young dragon. "You can do it, warm friend," Hana would say. "Just a little more." When Jiwoo could finally walk again, Thalrax summoned her to the throne room. She went nervously, still moving slowly, one hand pressed to her healing wound. The throne room was filled with nobles and dignitaries. The Earth delegation stood to one side. Subin gave her an encouraging nod. Hana walked beside Jiwoo, staying close. Thalrax stood from his throne as Jiwoo approached. The room fell silent. "Jiwoo of Earth," Thalrax said formally, "you have twice saved my daughter's life. You have shown courage, loyalty, and selflessness beyond measure. You have changed my understanding of what strength truly means." He descended from the throne, standing before her. I hereby grant you the title of Heart-Sister to the Imperial House. You are family, now and forever. You will have all rights and protections afforded to members of the royal family. A gasp went through the crowd. This honor had never been given to a non-Drakmaran in all of history. Jiwoo's eyes widened. Your Majesty, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Hana whispered urgently. Yes, Jiwoo said, laughing through tears. Thank you. Thalrax placed a chain around her neck. It bore the symbol of his house, worked in precious metal. Then he did something even more shocking. He embraced her, careful of her injuries. Thank you, he said quietly, so only she could hear, for showing me that true strength lies in protecting others, not in conquering them. The ceremony continued. Thalrax addressed the Grand Council next. I propose that humanity be offered full partnership with the Drakmaran Imperium, not as subjects, not as distant allies, but as equals, as kindred spirits. Some council members protested. Humans were weak, they argued. What could such a fragile species offer? Thalrax's eyes flashed with fire. This human, fragile and soft, saved my daughter when others stood back in fear. She sacrificed herself without hesitation. She has shown more honor than many of our own warriors. If one human can be this, imagine what humanity as a whole can achieve with us. He paused, looking at Jiwoo. They may lack our physical strength, but they have something we have forgotten. They protect the weak. They value compassion as strength. They understand that power means nothing without purpose. The debate lasted hours, but in the end, the vote passed. Humanity would become the first species to be true partners with the Drakmaran Imperium. 6 months later, Jiwoo stood on Nexus Station again. But everything was different now. The station had a new wing dedicated to cultural exchange between humans and Drakmaran. Children of both species played together in a garden designed to feel welcoming to everyone. Jiwoo watched Hana chase human children in a game of tag. The young dragon was careful not to use her full speed, making it fair. The human children squealed with laughter when she caught them. She is happy, Thalrax said, coming to stand beside Jiwoo. She is, Jiwoo agreed. Both our peoples are learning from each other. Thalrax had spent the last month on Earth. He had walked through Seoul, tasted Korean food, listened to human music. He had been amazed by everything. A species with no natural weapons had built cities that rivaled Drakmaran architecture. They had created art that moved him to tears. They had survived countless wars and disasters, and each time they had rebuilt stronger. I have made a decision, Thalrax said. I am establishing an exchange program. Young Drakmaran will study on Earth. Young humans will study on our worlds. We will truly learn to understand each other. That's wonderful, Jiwoo said. And I want you to lead this program, Thalrax continued. You bridge both worlds better than anyone. Jiwoo looked at him in surprise. Me? I'm not qualified for something that important. You are the most qualified, Thalrax said. You see the good in both our peoples. You understand that our differences make us stronger together. Jiwoo thought about it. She had planned to go home to Earth, to see her family, to live a quiet life. But this was bigger than her plans. This was about building a future where humans and Drakmaran could truly be family. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Subin had taken a permanent position as Earth's ambassador to the Imperium. She and Jiwoo worked together now, fostering the relationship between their peoples. It was hard work, but rewarding. One evening, Jiwoo sat with Thalrax and Hana in the garden. Earth's sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Hana was telling them about a human child who had taught her a new game. He said we could be friends even though we are different, Hana said. Is that true, father? Yes, Thalrak said, looking at Jiwoo. Sometimes the best friendships are between those who are different. They teach us new ways to see the world. Hana curled up between them, content. Jiwoo thought about how far she had come, from a waitress trying to save money to a bridge between two civilizations. It had started with one simple choice, to help a child in need. What are you thinking about? Thalrax asked. About that day on Nexus Station, Jiwoo said. When I saw Hana trapped, I didn't think about what species she was. I just saw someone who needed help. And that changed everything, Thalrax said softly. You showed me that strength is not about power. It is about courage. The courage to help others. The courage to be kind when being kind is difficult. The courage to stand up even when you will be knocked down. You've changed too, Jiwoo said. You're not the same emperor who first spoke to me in that medical bay. No, Thalrax agreed. I am better now, because of you. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Ships from a dozen worlds passed overhead. Among them were vessels from Earth and the Drakmaran homeworld, traveling together now, partners, friends, family. Hana fell asleep between them. Jiwoo smiled, remembering the small dragon trapped under debris, crying for help. That moment had seemed like an ending then, a crisis to survive. But it had actually been a beginning, the beginning of a friendship that would unite two worlds. Thank you, Thalrax said quietly. For what? For showing me that the universe is bigger than empires and power. For teaching me that family is not about blood or species. It is about who you choose to protect, who you choose to love. Jiwoo looked at Hana sleeping peacefully, then at Thalrax. This strange family they had built together. A human, a dragon emperor, and a hatchling. It should not have worked, but it did. You're welcome, Jiwoo said, and thank you for giving me a place to belong. Above them, the stars shone bright. And somewhere in that vast darkness, other species were watching. Watching as humanity and the Drakmaran Imperium proved that the strongest bonds are forged not in similarity, but in the courage to embrace difference. The courage to see the person behind the scales or skin. The courage to protect those who need protection, regardless of the cost. It had started with one human waitress seeing an injured child. It grew into an alliance that would change the galaxy. And it all came down to one simple truth that both humans and Drakmaran were learning together. Compassion is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of all.